Hi, this is Timothy Morgan, candidate for Nebraska City Mayor. I am doing this audio file, not a video, so there is no problem with your screens, folks. Today we're going to talk about where the education of Nebraska City, where we went, and how it helped us. And then we'll get into the community of how we felt the city was doing between 1983 to 1991, 92. Compared to now. Now, I was a town student. I lived 3 blocks off of Nebraska City School for the Visually Handicapped. It was called Nebraska School for the Visually Handicapped at that time when we attended. And now it's a long name, which is
Nebraska Center for the Education of Children who are blind or visually impaired.
Okay. Now, the reason I wanted to make this video, not video, but this audio file, was a lot of people in the community of Nebraska City don't even know the school exists up there on 10th Street and 10th Ave. There has been people that have come to Nebraska City, and we'd be out walking, and they would ask, how do you get to the school for the visually handicapped? And sometimes they'd be way off. So we give them directions. And I'm very happy to give them directions to the school. Matter of fact, people can stop me and ask me how to get somewhere in Nebraska City, and I can give them directions, no problem. I've lived in Nebraska City so long that I really sometimes can floor or just stun friends. They will take me out at night. I am legally blind at night. I can tell them where they're at without using my phone. I can tell them where the bumps are in the road. I can tell them which roads are the smoothest. I can tell them which is the roughest. But anybody can do that as they get to know their town very well. I also Joe and I try many times with family and friends or visitors of Nebraska City to describe our roads and how they're laid out. Our avenues, from Central Avenue all the way up to 16th Avenue, maybe beyond, is the north part of town. if you have an address that is Corso, it's the same directions as the avenues, east and west, but it is on the south side of town. If you get Ruse, then you're going up into the Kearney Hill area, which is the southeast part of Nebraska City. And then you get circles and drives, and you're getting into the northwest part of the city. So before I get into this with Jill, Nebraska City is known for being called the historic town. It's got a lot of history behind it, a lot of museums, a lot of Arbor Lodge. J. Sterling Morton started that. He was the tree planting. He brought trees up. That's some history of its own. Anyway, now, going to the school for the visually handicapped, where we went, we felt that we were treated better because our classroom ratio was 4-1.
Yeah.
Everything in the home ec room was set up for the blind or the low vision. Everything in that school was set up for the blind and low vision. So I want to talk a little bit there about the classroom part of the school. That was built in, I want to say, the brick building was built in 1970 something, I believe. I want to say 73, 74, somewhere in there. Now, what sticks out is there anything historical of the classroom side that sticks out to you that no other school would have?
Well, the home ec room was set up in an unusual way. There were 2 kitchens, an electric kitchen and a gas kitchen that the visually challenged students could learn how to cook in. And there was a dishwasher and a washer and dryer and bathroom. And there was also a living room area with a couch and table and lamp with a carpeted area, which was kind of unusual. That sticks out in my mind.
So, all this was, when you go to a public school or you think of a home ec room, you think of basically not stereotyping a class, but what do you think of when you say home ec?
Well, usually when you think of a home ec room, you usually think of only an electric kitchen or only a gas kitchen. You don't think of both being combined.
Well, they were 2 different kitchens.
Yeah, but they were in the same room.
Same room, yeah. Okay. So, the laundry room, or not the laundry room, the dishwasher was used off and on. But what, pretty much when you were cooking, I thought was pretty cool the way they taught us how to get things ready to when we were cooking.
Yeah. They taught us how to put everything we're going to use on a tray.
That was cool. Then everything's at the reach, right? You're not having to go through the cupboards or...
Yes. Everything is at your reach that you are going to use. Because you have everything on the tray.
Right. So, when you were describing the washing machine and dryer, was that just for the washing of the dishcloths and towels, or was it used for other things?
No, you could go downstairs if you wanted to the home ec room and use the washer and dryer downstairs.
For what?
For whatever you needed to wash or dry.
Your personal stuff?
Yeah, your personal stuff.
Okay. And then there was the bathroom with the bathtub. Couldn't believe it when I first seen that. But that was to teach.
I suppose to teach grooming.
Well, and then they had so the low vision or the blind can learn how to clean a bathroom, as well as the living room area to vacuum and dust and all that.
Yeah.
So that is you don't even think about the cleaning of the bathroom or the laundry or the living room area when you think home ec. You just think of cooking and eating.
Yeah.
But it was neat because we had to sit there and make menus, and then we had to make a shopping list, right?
Yeah.
And then go to Norman's IGA, which was only 4 blocks away from the school, to go shopping.
Yeah.
Totally cool. Now, what else sticks out that's kind of a classic older in the classrooms?
When I first saw the shop downstairs, I thought it was classic because you had a big wall full of tools on one side of the shop, and it seemed like on the other side of the shop you had all the power tools.
Okay.
And you had the desks where you learn about whatever it is the teacher teaches you about.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of interesting. I did not have that in my public school. There wasn't a room like that at all. So that sticks out in my mind.
Well, in the class room was you were talking about tools.
Yeah.
Besides the power tools on the other side, but the hand tools were hanging up on a pegboard, right?
Yeah. There were lots of them.
And then you had like workbenches with vices and everything.
Yeah.
And then like a finishing room where what did we do in there?
In the finishing room, that was where the finished projects went that were built.
Is that like varnish paint in that room?
Yeah, varnishing, painting. Whatever was either varnished or painted would go in the finishing room.
Okay. It had the double doors and the antique sink, which looked like a bathtub with about 4 different faucets.
I know.
Where you could wash your hands.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it wasn't like the ones nowadays where you can just wring your hands underneath it and it sensors and turns on and off. It looked like the star handle.
Yeah.
But that wasn't just a shop. What else did they teach you in there?
Well, I learned about glass etching. And I also did a car washing unit. And if I remember right, I used to vacuum out cars.
Mm-hmm. Now in the car washing unit, you could use the power washer, but what did the instructor encourage you to use? Soap and water, sponge, chamois, or...
If I remember right, a chamois.
Well, to wash the car.
Yeah.
What did you have?
And the soap and water.
And the sponge.
And the sponge.
To soap it.
Yeah.
The chamois was to polish it.
Yeah.
And the garden hose was to...
rinse it off.
And squirt your classmates.
And if you wanted to, be ornery and squirt the classmate.
Yeah, which I've done a couple times. Oops, missed you. They had leather craft, button making for, what was it, like pins and plastic crafts. So it wasn't just woodworking, it was all kinds of, right?
Right.
And it was all tailored to low vision and the blind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then we got to learn about small engines and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, anything else stick out?
Well, the bowling alley.
Okay.
I didn't have one of those in my public school. That was cool.
So,
2 bowling lanes and 2 pin sitters.
to describe the history of the bowling alley, it originally started, I guess, up here on Central Avenue and 11th Street was Nebraska City Bowling Alley. So they brought everything to the school. The lanes, the gutters, it was pretty cool. 2 lanes. And it was not like nowadays where you just toss the ball and it come back. You had to have somebody back in the back, and when you knock over the pins, they have to pick them up every 2 balls and put them in. The pin setter pull the string. Hopefully it sets up, but sometimes it don't. And then you have to put the ball up on the ramp and then send it back. And you always had to say ready, so that the blind or people in front would know that you're ready and you have your feet out of the pit, because sometimes those balls come pretty fast and hard.
Yeah. Oh, how I know.
Now, okay, was there any other things?
Yeah. There was a swimming pool.
Okay.
I thought that was cool, because I didn't have a swimming pool in my public school. When I first saw that, I was like, oh, cool. This is going to be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, anything else that stuck out?
Well, let's see. The gymnasium.
Okay.
That was a pretty big gymnasium.
Okay.
And I noticed that the gymnasium had bleachers.
The old-fashioned bleachers where you pulled them out.
Yeah, the old-fashioned bleachers that you pull them out.
They were metal with wood.
Yeah. And I noticed that there was a cabinet with the roller skates in it.
Yeah.
Lots of roller skates, so that the visually challenged students could learn how to skate.
Okay.
And I thought that was cool.
So,
I was like, oh, cool. This is going to be cool.
and then they had the basketball hoops and everything else like a regular gym.
There were basketball hoops, just like regular gymnasiums. Shuffleboard on the floor, so you could play shuffleboard.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, cool. This is going to be cool.
The locker room was spacious.
I know. The locker room was very spacious. Plenty of room for the lockers and the seat. And the showers were plenty big to take a shower.
Mm-hmm. So,
that was neat.
Just kind of veering off a tiny bit, the lockers in the locker room were good size. They're not like miniature lockers.
They were pretty good sized lockers, gym lockers.
They probably, probably 3 feet high?
Yeah. I'd say roughly about 3 feet high.
So, in public school, if I remember right, I think if you take a shower, you have to supply your own towel and soap.
Yeah.
Now, in these lockers, rooms, what was supplied?
Well, the towels were there. I don't remember if the shampoo and soap were there.
Well, they had the bar soap, the government soap.
Yeah, so they supplied the soap.
You had to come with your own shampoo.
But I suppose you'd have to come up with your own shampoo.
Okay. Now, in the main area was over by the classrooms downstairs, right?
Right.
Those lockers were bigger yet. Those were, I want to say, probably 5 foot, 6 foot tall. Some had drawers in them. Some had, and you had shelves in there and a place for your coat.
Yeah.
It was big.
I know. Are you talking about the lockers in the hallway?
Yeah.
Yeah, those were big. Those were big enough for all your books, your coat, your purse if you have one.
They were big.
Yeah, they were nice.
And they, like in public school, I've noticed when I went with the kids, our children, they have combination locks to their lockers, right?
Yeah.
Ours, in the locker room and in the main area of where the high school kept their lockers, the big ones, like we were just describing. Did they have combination locks?
No. You just open them and shut them whenever you had to go from class to class. You just open the locker, get whatever you need for that class that you are going to be going to, and then shut the locker and go to the class.
Right. Okay. But if you wanted to, you could put a padlock on there of your own.
Yeah, if you wanted to.
You just have to give the office an extra key, the extra key.
Yeah.
Okay, so anything else downstairs that kind of...
Excuse me.
stood out?
Well, I said swimming pool. I said bowling alley. I said gymnasium, the shop, the home ec room. The math and science room to me looked like your typical math and science room. It had the desks where I guess you sit and learn about math and science.
Well, they had the gas jets on there.
The gas jets? I forgot about those. Of course, I never used those.
But the school was so old that, historic-wise, none of the classrooms, upper or lower, had air conditioner. Neither did the library, the music room. The bowling alley definitely didn't have ventilation. It got very hot in there, in the back.
Yeah, it did.
So, okay, any other, just now I'm going to go into a little more history of that school. It was called at first the Institute for the Blind, and it was the Blue Devils, is what I got told by several of the alumni. And they had cheerleading squad, a wrestling and track and field, but the uniforms changed throughout the years, and I thought that was pretty interesting. And the wrestling mat, we got new wrestling mat after a couple of years as well. But the cheerleading uniform, there was one year you had to go with sweatpants or go with black pants and with a blue sweater.
Blue long sleeved sweater.
But that was just 1 year because of a certain circumstance out of our control. But when we did candy bar wrestling, you cheerleaders you weren't traveling, but at that time, but that was to introduce the younger elementary to wrestling and the younger females to cheerleading. So you did a lot of sit down cheers.
Yeah.
Or kneeling, but what was your uniforms like then?
If I remember right,
your first uniform.
I think it was a blue and gold skirt with a blue and gold sweater, but the blue and gold skirt, if I remember right, was knee length. It went down as far as the knees.
Now, did you feel that was a typical cheerleading uniform, or did you feel that different?
It kind of felt different.
But it gave you the spirit, team spirit.
Yeah, it gave me the team spirit better than the black sweats and the blue sweater, long sleeved sweater.
Okay. So then it went from there. So as soon as you started traveling at 14, you still had the same uniform, right? Or did it go shorter or longer, or what did it do skirt-wise? You kept the same tops, right? Or did the tops change?
Well, if I remember right, when I was 15 and 16, the tops stayed the same, but the skirts changed. Because the skirt, when I was 16, my last year of cheerleading, was short.
Then how would you describe that?
If I remember right, I'd say that it went halfway down to the knees. It didn't go all the way down to the knees, but about midway.
So you felt that was...
I felt that was much better. I felt that was the way a cheerleading skirt and sweater should be for a girl.
Okay, so after it was the Blue Devils, it went to the Cougars. That was our mascot.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that we had our track team, which we had a track behind the school, and they had wires for the blind to run, and they had a medium-sized track, 8 laps equal a mile around it. We ran track with the blind, like sighted guide. They had to hang onto our elbow, which was called running tandem. Right?
Right.
Now, real quickly, was just kind of looking, going through the rooms or down the hall, etc. Were the windows, the office, or normal clear, or did something stick out?
Are you talking about the windows alongside the breezeway?
No, right now it's the ones that were in front of the receptionist desk in the office as you entered the office.
Oh, yeah, I remember those windows. If I remember right, those were stained glass windows. And I'm thinking they were blue and gold windows, I think.
Okay. Those are the only ones in the classroom area that had colored windows. Right.
Right.
Okay. So the music room auditorium had the practice rooms, and so the stage had the old-fashioned spotlights, but the curtains were up at that time were, I want to say, a reddish color, kind of a rusty color. Is that right?
Yeah.
And heavy.
Very
heavy. And they didn't lift up on pulleys. You had to pull them to the side. And we had somebody running them. And those spotlights got hot.
Yeah, they did.
But music was very, very interesting because we got to learn steel drums. Kids got to learn piano. If you wanted to, you could learn guitar, which I did. But we would go to the state capitol and sing and visit the state capitol, but in Lincoln. But during music, we learned more about the history of the school because there was a special song, right?
Yeah.
You remember what that was?
Not just a living, but a life.
Right. So, as people can tell, I encourage people to set up an appointment, take a tour of that school. It is totally awesome. Don't make judgment by just driving by, because there's a lot going on in that school, a lot more than the community realizes. Like I said, people don't even realize that school is up there in the community. But when we were going to school, we had some very, very special visitors tour the school. And Jill was one of the tour guides. You remember who come up to tour the school?
Yeah. K.O.R. and Bob Carey.
Which I was very, very shocked. But they even sat down with us in the lunchroom and ate with us and visited. Meanwhile, they were trying to close down the school to merge us with the deaf. And we did not understand this, why they would do that, but they were going to put us in the school for the deaf in the basement, and they made the comment through the grapevine. What I understood is the blind school don't need to see out any windows because everybody's blind, nobody can see, which that ain't true. So now the school is still there. When you started school, you went to school, you only went home on 4 times a year?
Yep. I only went home Thanksgiving, Christmas, spring break, and summer, I think.
They had summer school as well. But they had the cafeteria, had stained glass windows dividing the hall in the cafeteria. They had blue and white flooring, right?
Yeah.
They had a nurse's station. Oh, and they had a very special room that Jill loved to hang out in. Which one was that?
That was the pop room.
Why was that so special?
Because the pop machines in the pop room had glass bottles. And they were really big glass pop bottles. Which I thought was really cool.
And how much did it cost to buy a pop?
25 cents.
For a bottle of soda?
Yep, 1 quarter.
Unbelievable. And they had couches in there where students could sit down and visit.
Yep.
They even had a payphone around the corner.
Yep, they did.
The dormitories had... Real quick, tell me about the dorms.
Well, the dorms were really cool. There was a lobby where students can sit and talk or play games or eat.
Go ahead.
And the dorm rooms themselves were also cool because I stayed in the dorm room, and while I was staying up in the dorm, I had my dorm mates and my house mother, who I considered my family because I spent a lot of time with them. And it was really fun living in the dorm. I really enjoyed it.
So, how was the dorm set up?
Well, there are 2 halls of dorm rooms. There's a south hall and a north hall. So there's plenty of space for several students to be in the dorm rooms.
So let's just go into one room. When you first started the school, what did the room look like?
Well, it had closets where the students could put their clothes. It had a place for students to hang up their clothes that they hang up, like dresses and blouses. And it had shelves where students could put their blue jeans and t-shirts and socks. And it also had curtains. There were curtains in the dorm room for the windows.
Was the windows small, or were they?
They were big windows.
Okay.
Much bigger than I thought they would be. And there were beds in the dorm room. And the beds were already made. They had the bedding on them.
So were they single beds or bunk beds?
Well, I did have a bunk bed at one point.
Okay.
That I shared with one of my dorm mates.
Did you study out in the lobby, or where did you do your homework at?
I studied in my dorm room by myself so that there wouldn't be any distractions.
So you did that on your bed?
Nope, I sat at a desk. There was a desk in the dorm room that I could set my books on, and I studied on the desk, sitting at the desk.
Okay. Now, you guys, you girls, all your dorm, everybody in the dorm would go shopping and go out to eat, etc.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, comparing now to then, going from the school, because you guys used to walk to the store, Norman's. You guys used to walk, the students used to walk to Norman's, they used to walk to Knuckle Square, they used to walk downtown. Right?
Right.
How did you feel the city was handling the safety of the sidewalks and maintaining the streets and basically kind of conducting themselves?
Well, at the time I felt like it was okay. Because lots of times, if I remember right, depending on where we'd go to eat, we usually got a ride out to eat or shopping.
Okay. So, let's say, I know you went to Woolsworth and you downtown, and which is now the Fort, but the maintenance of the sidewalks, and how do you feel that they are now compared to then?
Well, if I remember right, it seems like they were okay when I was back in school. But now the sidewalks, for some reason or other, seem to have gotten worse.
So, why do you think they're getting worse? Is it just because people don't want to take responsibility, or they don't have pride in their town, or the city is not making sure that it's a safe and doing what they're supposed to by whatever they need to do, city ordinances?
Well, I think it's just because most people drive, and I bet that that's probably part of the reason why the sidewalks aren't in better shape, because a lot of people don't use sidewalks.
Okay. Well, how bad would you say the sidewalk is getting? So, like, I know you had an incident in April. What was it, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
And then you fell over a crack in the sidewalk
Yeah.
over between 12th Street.
Yeah.
So what do you think of that?
Well, I think that it should be the responsibility of either the business owner or homeowner to take care of their sidewalk. Spend the money to take care of this sidewalk and make it safe. Not just for themselves, but for everybody who goes up and down that sidewalk.
Okay.